Now that I got the heat, which is the most critical, ironed out, the next thing that I'm going to have to look at right away is cooling. Originally I was going to get into the doing the RV in the fall, and so I would be looking at September and October and probably moving in November. But I had to, start much sooner, so we're dealing with end of July, beginning of August now, and so I'm going to need some kind of cooler right away. I'm not going to be able to move in and then wait 9 months and get a cooler then. And over the last year I've looked at coolers as well. One company that makes good coolers, because what's really required here is a 12-volt cooler that can run on a 12-volt solar system, because I'm going to require a low EMF, DC only 12-volt solar system. So that means the cooler will have to be 12-volt. There's not going to be plugging in a refrigerated air conditioner. And being that it's Arizona is where I'm going to be relocating, that's perfect. It's not like New Mexico where you've got tons of humidity and the swamp cooler only is going to work some of the time. And right now where I live in New Mexico, it is very humid, and I do use a swamp cooler, and it keeps me comfortable. I'm happy with it. There are times where it's just raining and the air is just full of, wet steam, and it does seem kind of hot, and I am a little uncomfortable, but for the most part it works. Over in Arizona it's a lot drier, so a swamp cooler is going to be a great option. One of the main companies that produces 12-volt evaporative coolers is Southwest Solar. They have different sizes. You see here they have the 14-inch, an 18-inch, and a 24-inch, and a 42-inch. But if you look here, you see the prices: $979, $1,089, $1,514, $3,339. That's just absolutely unaffordable for most people that have an RV that are wanting to put a swamp cooler on it. From all the things I've read and all the reviews, this is the one that everybody's happy with. So then I went to try to find something closer to my budget and found this mini cooler. $249, and now I see the sold out thing. I'm thinking to myself, well, as what I went through with the heaters, a lot of the things you see on the internet don't really exist. So I was kind of figuring that that's probably the case with this. It's the perfect price and all that. So actually, before I found my RV, I called this person up, the company, and they really do exist. I guess more will be coming out probably in another month or something. And so I called him back when I found, now that I'm doing the shopping for a cooler, and found out that they will not work mounting them on the roof. So they don't really have a provision to mount them on the roof. So that kind of left me with one more option, which is the TurboCool. And the TurboCool is it mounts like an RV air conditioner. It's got a lot more power than I would say the mini cooler. Probably not as much as a large Southwest cooler. It's really kind of hard for me to talk right now, but that's kind of basically the bulk of it. I ended up ordering the TurboCool from Pacific RV Parts. It ended up being a total of $579, so I did save some money, but it was still a pretty big, fat, expensive purchase that I really wasn't prepared to make. But I will have a pretty good cooler on my RV, And I think for me it's going to do the job. Now, I read the reviews on Amazon, and for some people it just wasn't enough. But I'm very sensitive to cold. I think for me it's going to be enough, and it's going to do the trick as long as I leave a window open. I think a lot of people aren't aware that you have to leave a window open with a swamp cooler. Now, where I live now, I have a very loud, screaming, horrible, horrible train noise, and I can't leave the window open, which is part of the reason it just doesn't work for me so well where I am now. That train noise is pretty bad. People wonder why I can even stand to live here and why I've stayed as long as I have due to the train noise. So this swamp cooler has to try to make it without opening a window, which is pretty rough. No open windows where I live, but no matter where I go in the RV, I'm not going to go somewhere where there's a train noise problem, so I'll be able to open a window. It's going to have to be an area where it's going to not be so noisy that living in my house in peace is not going to be possible. It's going to have to be an area where I can live in my house in peace and be able to open a window. That's going to be a requirement. So this is the cooler that I picked, and so I'll be waiting for that to ship and arrive. So I now have cooling, and the next project is going to be to put together my low EMF solar system. There's not going to be much in the budget left for that, so it's going to be pretty small. It's going to be barely enough to, you know, keep the lights and cooler going. So I'll be doing that. Also, I forgot to mention that that was 2 days ago that I did order the Turbo Cool, and I got this like neat brochure in the mail because I called the company before I ordered. I got this brochure from Turbo Cool, this neat little brochure. So I'm getting to kind of enjoy a little bit the cooler that I did order while I wait for it to arrive. It's going to go to the installer, so I won't see the cooler before it's installed or get any more information basically than what I see online or the brochure. The cooler is going to use like 60 watts of power per hour when it's on high. When it's on medium, it's going to use about 39 watts per hour, and on low, about 26.5 watts per hour. So I'll probably run it on low most of the time because I'm not going to have the wattage available from my solar to probably do much more, and just try to keep it at an even pace. Because it is a DC cooler, I might actually want to do it another way and run it on high as little as possible, and then have it off, and have it on and off at different intervals. That's basically what I do with my swamp cooler now. It's off half the day, and then the hottest half of the day it's on. So that way I wouldn't have to, have the EMFs from the DC motor. So I'll have to play with it, but I'm really looking forward to, having this cooler. And that's it for cooling.